Hello, it's Adedoyin Jaiyesimi here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm excited to be teaching on this topic today. In fact, over the next few weeks, I'm really going to do a deep dive into communication strategy because it is one of my number one most asked or frequently asked question, and I'm going to break it down into the different parts. But today I really want to focus on the foundation, which is using data to create your communication strategy. If you're not leveraging data in the development process, in creating your communication strategy, you are doing yourself a big disservice, and I'm going to be exploring why. And I'm also going to be looking at how to use data to optimize the success of your communication strategy. So let's get into the topic for today. The starting point. Why is data and research important? Because some of you may be like, hey, are they doing I have a lot of work already. Yeah, you are telling me to get data. Now you're telling me to research. But this is why it's important. Number one, you get a picture of what is currently happening within the internal and external environment of your organization. The reality of it is that your organization does not exist in isolation. It exists within an industry. It exists within a macroeconomic context. It exists within a nation. It exists within a regional bloc. It exists within the global geopolitical landscape and everything that's going on. And all of those things not only have an impact on the operations of your organization, it also impacts on your communication strategy. So if, for example, your organization is about to launch a new product, now usually they will do the market research, they will do audience analysis, really just to make sure that's the organizations that do it well, they will do the research, know the price points and all. Now, if at the point of launch, you find or you discover after speaking to your audience that, look, people have limited disposable income, it means that there's something about how you communicate that product that needs to change. In fact, maybe there needs to be a different price point. So there are strategies that will need to change or need to be adopted based on the realities on ground, and you need to be aware of them. Same thing with stakeholders. If your organization wants to get the attention of certain stakeholders, you have to know what exactly is going on with these stakeholders and factor that into your communication strategy so that your organization is not tone deaf and so that those engagements are actually successful and you achieve your goals. Remember, your communications objectives, your communication strategy is meant to support your organization in achieving the big picture organizational goals. And that's why there's usually a disconnect between the work we do and the final results that the organization sees, because we haven't done the research that gives us the data to link what we're doing to what the organization wants to see. And that's why data is so important. Another reason why data is important is that you move from intuition-based communications to evidence-based communications. I always like to say there is a science and an art to communication. There is the creative part. There's the part where you just have this sense about this direction. But increasingly in the world that we're in, the stakes are so much higher that your intuition has to be backed by evidence. So it's not just enough to say, I feel this is the way to go. For me, for example, I've been doing this for over 15 years. There are some things I know that just works. But even at that, I also want to question my intuition. Not question my intuition, maybe test it or validate. That's the word I'm looking for. Validate this intuition. What is the evidence that I'm going by or going with to suggest or recommend this line of approach? So you just move from being intuition based to becoming evidence based, and then it helps you to even communicate what it is that you are doing to the stakeholders and the people that you need the approval from, because it's not just the thing in your head, it's not just the intangible intuition, it's data that people can see, it's a trend analysis that people can follow. And so the data that you collect and the insights that you gather will help you to better optimize the success of your communication strategy. Look, I've been doing this for how many years? I have seen it. If at every client that I work with, I always tell them we have to start this brief with research. I need to research your internal organization. I need to research external audience stakeholders. And sometimes they push back, but then the things that come or become revealed through this process of research and data gathering is always, it blows even my mind away. But what it does is that it helps us to create a proper tailor-made communication strategy. We must be doing work that is driving results. We must be doing work that is bringing the outcomes that the organization wants to see. And so for me, I always prioritize data and research. And finally, you become better equipped to speak the language of your senior leaders and get their buy-in. Again, because you're not speaking just from your head, you're putting it in paper, in graphs, in information, in insight that they can easily see and understand. And it's not just coming from you. You've done the environmental scanning, you've done the scanning within the organization, you've seen opportunity areas, you've seen gaps, and you're able to connect the dots better. Let me tell you, data is very powerful, and you as a communications person within an organization, there's a lot of data that sits on your desk that if you just even begin to harness it, let's even just say, oh, I don't have enough money to do research. Even the data from your website backend, your Google Analytics, your social media analytics, it will reveal so much to you that it can help you optimize or change something little about the way you communicate within your organization that will bring big results. But you don't know because you're not paying attention to the data. Now, what data points do you need? The first is internal and external environment data, where you scan, you get feedback from those that work internally within an organization and those who are external, the stakeholders, general audiences, or specialized or specific audiences, getting data, speaking to them, running surveys, and you want to do the SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for this organization? You have the general one. A lot of organizations have the general SWOT analysis, but you also want to do a SWOT analysis from a communication perspective. What is impacting on this organization's brand? Where is this organization positioned within the industry? What are the opportunity areas that we can take advantage of? And then you want to look at things like the economic, geopolitical, national, and social snapshots, which the PESU framework would allow you to do. And thankfully, with AI, you can actually aggregate some of these data and have a dashboard that you are then updating week on week, or maybe even month on month. But you have to really pay attention to that data. The next is industry data. What exactly is happening within the industry? What are the changes that are happening? What's going on? Who is the top, or who are the top 5, top 10? Is your organization even there? What does it mean to be a leader within this space? Those are things that you want to know, because it is very, very important for credibility, for reputation, and for trust. Next thing is your reputation data. What are people saying about your organization? What is the perception? External stakeholders, internal stakeholders. It will shock you sometimes that internal stakeholders have a very skewed perception of your brand, despite the fact that they're working internally. I've seen a lot of things in this, my work as a strategic communications advisor. So you want to look at brand perception, media coverage, sentiment, analyzing conversations around your brand. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral? Well, neutral may not be bad, but it just means that people don't really have, if it's not positive, it's like being lukewarm, right? So you have to say, okay, if it's neutral, what do we need to become positive? Because anything can happen, and that sentiment goes to negative. The next is your audience data. You want to know their behaviors, psychographics, their level of engagement. Are they engaging with your content? Are they engaging in your communications channels? Are they engaging with whatever it is that you are selling, your products, your services? However it is that you want them to engage, what is the quality and level of engagement from your target audience? How are they behaving? What are the patterns? These are the things that data will show you. You can sit down with, even if it's just your LinkedIn data, you can see what people are interested in, even your website. You can see the articles that people are interested in. You can see the things that they are engaged with the most. You can look at click-through rates. Click-through rates, when you have a post on social media and the click-through rate is high, you have a link to a resource, a link to your website, it means that that particular thing is interesting to them. And so you begin to take that, okay, people clicked this, but they didn't click this. Why? So you really want to probe deeper, because in doing that, you're able to get answers. In doing that, you're able to explore possibilities that helps to strengthen your communication strategy. Then you're looking at your stakeholder data, their needs and satisfaction levels. So your internal and external stakeholders, what do they even need? Are we speaking to their need? Are they satisfied? And you do a survey. If you've not surveyed your stakeholders in the last 1 to 2 years, you need to be doing a survey, because you're just assuming that everybody is good and everybody is fine. And again, because of my work, work. I have seen how stakeholders use these surveys and research to air grievances that they have not even told the organization in the past. It's so funny because it's anonymous, so they're able to share and you're able to probe deeper. So you want to look at that, and then you want to look at your channel performance data. What works where and why? If you have a strategy that you're posting the same content across all the different platforms, you have to question, is this content, did it do better on Instagram than on LinkedIn? Why? Was it suited for LinkedIn, for example? Do we have to repurpose, or how do we repurpose for Instagram? You have to know the kinds of content that do well on the different channels, and you must be able to answer that question. Why? Because what data does, it shows you patterns, it shows you trends, and then you probe and you understand the why. And when you understand the why, sometimes it's trial and error, tweaking and reiterating, but then you're able to land on, okay, this is what works for this channel, for our particular audiences, for this kind of thing that we want to push out. Now let's go into the data collection process. Number one, identify the indicators and the data points that are necessary for the strategic direction your organization wants to go in. Are we trying to attract new investors? Are we trying to expand? Are we trying to strengthen our reputation? Are we trying to become, closer with our regulators? What are the things that we will use to measure this? That's what indicators and data points mean. And so if we're going into a new region, for example, what is going to help us to know that we have done this successfully? How will we measure that our expansion into a new region, into a new country has been successful? Do we want to look at the acceptance level in terms of how many people buy our products, how many people buy our services, the kind of sentiment they have towards our brand, towards our organization? Is it our sales figure? What exactly are the indicators and data points? Now, this doesn't mean that communications is now for you to go and be selling. It's just that you are aware so that you can do the linkages. My biggest issue sometimes is that we fail to see the connecting points. And so we're doing a lot of work. People are seeing the results, maybe in sales, in marketing, and in other departments. But because we are not seeing the linkages, we're not connecting the dots, they are taking the glory for the sales that they've closed. Meanwhile, the leads were generated from what we did, but we did not connect it to the very end. So you want to start thinking about these things from the beginning, and you don't think about it in isolation, sitting in your office. You have to go to sales, you have to go to the different departments, so that collectively you have that organizational indicator and the data point, and you know who is sitting with this data, so you can be following up with them. Where are we now in terms of numbers? Where did we start with? What is our usual average? Did this make a difference? So you even know how effective your campaign is, if your campaign or your communication activity is actually making a difference. The next thing is you then start with general research using Google search to understand your industry, understand the national, social, global context, and the trends for your sector. I love Google. I research all sorts of things, and you have to be very patient with this process. Sometimes I go to page 10, so it's not that you do page 1, page 2 and you give up. No, read things, just read the insights, what's going on. Now you can leverage AI to do your research, but you also have to be mindful that AI actually does hallucinate, so you also have to verify the information that AI is giving you. But AI makes it easier for you to do your general research. So if your organization wants to be positioned to attract investors, for example, you have to understand what exactly is the investment landscape currently. So if your organization is in Africa, what are deal flows to Africa like? Are investors open or averse to bringing money into the continent? This information is not just even you sitting down, which is why I said you have to work collaboratively with your investor relations team or the people that know much about this investment, so that you can ask the right questions. And then you know, okay, what are the indicators? What are the things that make them give or invest in an organization? And how do we make sure that our organization, from a communications perspective, is positioned rightly? So as stakeholder communications, what should we be saying to the investors? What should they be seeing on our website? What should they be saying about our senior leaders, our CEO? That's the way that you're going to be thinking about it. And then you look at what drivers will be important for your organization. Know these things and then begin to identify the communication element from that information that you receive. Like I said before, you can also leverage AI for deeper information, but please hedge against possible AI hallucinations. Don't just copy and paste what AI gives you without thinking through it. The next thing you then want to do is to review your competitors or industry players that are going in the direction that your organization wants to go, because you can learn some things from them. Aside from even learning things from them, you can also find things that they're not doing as well that your organization has the competitive advantage to explore and do better from a communications perspective. Now, you may discover things that are operation based or things that are related to other departments, and you seed or feed them with this data and information, which is very, very great. But always look at it from a communications perspective and a business or organizational lens, those two ways. So what are they doing well? What are they doing differently? How did they do it? Learn what they're doing. Look at their communications, audit their channels, look at their engagement. How are they, if they, for example, your organization is maybe 12th in industry ranking and you're looking at the competitors that are in the top 5, there's something you definitely have to learn from them, because there's a reason why they're in the top 5, and you must be able to know why or what are the things that helped them to become one of the top 5 industry leaders. You also want to speak to segments of your stakeholders and audience groups, surveys, polls, interviews, get feedback. The biggest mistake sometimes we make is we make assumptions about our stakeholders, even internal stakeholders, employees. You have to know a simple survey on Google Form, or you can use SurveyMonkey. I remember one time I was working in a particular organization and I just wanted feedback from some of our clients, some of the customers, and I just scheduled calls, right, to tell them, oh, I'm doing this. I'd like to speak to you for about 20-30 minutes. And those calls were very eye-opening. Now, I couldn't do a lot. I mean, it was one-on-one conversation. In fact, there were some that they lasted even longer than 1 hour. But it was really, really eye-opening. So you may want to try that. So while you may not be able to have it with all the stakeholders, customers, or clients, just even start with a few people and you will see the difference that makes. And I always advocate, if you followed me for a very long time, I always like to do something that helps me to advocate for more resources to do even more. And so if I start with this little thing, if I speak to 5 people, if I speak to 10 people, and the data is really eye-opening and I'm able to draw out really, really strong insights, I'm going to use that, do something with that, and then use it to say, if we're able to do a wider stakeholder research with a bigger budget, with bigger resources, human resources, maybe we bring an external research organization, this is going to help us in this way, and I begin to advocate for the things that I need. So the example that we were using before, if your company is seeking for investment from new sets of investors, you really want to know what matters most to investors when they want to invest in a company. Now, in this kind of situation, you may not even have access to the investors, but you can follow deals. You can engage with content online. When investors are having, there are a lot of interviews with great investors. They will tell you for free what they are looking out for. You can link up with people that know about this area. And that's why I always encourage you, expand your network beyond communications. There needs to be somebody within your network that has an understanding of the investment landscape, that deals with investors, that maybe works in a private equity firm, right? And so you then ask the person, are your current stakeholders happy with your industry performance? How is your organization perceived on an industry level? Imagine you're trying to run a communications campaign, and meanwhile, your industry performance is very low, you're not highly regarded by your regulators, and you're trying to do this communications campaign to strengthen stakeholder engagement, strengthen satisfaction, and then you've not even listened to them. You're not even aware that these are the challenges that they have, or this is the perception that they have. How are you going to make a difference? How are things going to change? So I'm hoping that you're seeing why data is very important. The next thing is assess where your organization is in terms of sentiment, perception, and reputation. These things can be measured. You have sentiment analysis, you can do surveys, you should be doing social listening, media monitoring tools, leverage them, use existing customer data. Like I said at the beginning, there's already data that you have within your organization that if you just sit down and put them in maybe a spreadsheet week on week, it will reveal a lot. Do you know that you can examine your existing customer data and you can see a trend that of a particular issue that people keep complaining about, or a particular, maybe people keep saying that, oh, they're not clear about the communication that comes in. They're not clear about next steps. So there is a lack of clarity in that process. That's something that you can do. And if you do something to solve that, that is a big win. But you don't know. because you're not assessing the data. So do people trust your organization? Is your organization's brand credible? Is it well spoken of? What gaps exist? Let me tell you, a lot of organizations believe that their brand, their organization is the best thing since sliced bread. However, when we now go and do this research, the things that come out, they're like, it's the shoulder pad now begins to be deflated. That, oops, there's a perception gap. We see ourselves more highly than we are externally, but the people outside are saying something different, and sometimes the people inside are also saying something different. Look, I hope I'm convincing you that you need data, that you need research, that you need to have insights. And then you connect the dots by identifying patterns and trends from your data. When you aggregate data over a period of time, you begin to spot trends. You begin to see what exactly are people saying. You begin to see the gaps. You begin to see opportunity areas. So what are some of the strengths that can be strengthened? What are areas where your organization is properly positioned to take advantage of? And you may not be aware of it now because you have not sat with the data, you have not aggregated it, and you have not analyzed it. And so when you do this step, you identify the blind spots and the gaps that may impact your organization's goals. And then you use the data and the insights that you draw out from it to develop your communication strategy and choose your tactical approach. So you want to do this by one, you align your insights with your organization's goals. If the organization wants to expand, what are the insights saying? Are people hostile on ground? Is this a good time to be expanding into that particular country? Is this a good time to be doing that activation? Do we need to maybe move it to 2027 or later in the year? All of those things you're able to do based on the insights that you get out from the data that you gather. You choose the right channels based on the data. You craft your messaging that resonates with each audience segment in terms of their know, feel, do. What do we want them to know? How do we want them to feel? What do we want them to do? Aligned with the insights that you have gathered from engaging with your stakeholders and the audience. Then you set your measurable objectives and you build a data-backed content plan, because you know what works or what is likely to work, because again, there is no communication strategy that is 100% perfect. There are risks. There are things that can happen that you didn't foresee. But at least you optimize and you put your communication strategy in a better position to be successful and effective. That is why this is important. So what are some simple tools for data gathering and analysis? I spoke about Google search. Use it for wide desk research on industry trend, news, other important information relating to the macroeconomic landscape. Again, you can use AI to filter this, but just remember the word of caution about AI hallucination. Your social media analytics. I was taking a class, a training a few days ago, and I actually took them through LinkedIn Insights, the data from LinkedIn backend for the comms avenue. I was showing them how to draw insights from aggregating that information and the backend of LinkedIn, linking it to the website analytics, and then making decisions based on that, the story that it reveals, the story that this data tells, how to connect the dots. And you really need to know how to use your social media analytics, spot trends in content, engagement, and audience interest. But you can only know it when you have aggregated this data over a period of time. I do this for my YouTube channel. I go month in, month out. I'm seeing what videos are people watching, what search entries or search requests are bringing traffic to my channels, what platforms. In fact, the data can show you that you have people looking at your website or content mostly via mobile. So it means that everything you create has to be mobile optimized. Your report, your graphics, everything. So your graphics have to be visual enough for people to see it on their mobile, because majority of people access it through your mobile because you see it from the data in the back end. Then you can use Google Form, Typeform, SurveyMonkey. So those are simple survey tools that you use to get data from different groups. Now, Google Form is the most basic. SurveyMonkey allows you to do a bit of analysis, but you pay for SurveyMonkey. So you can do a bit of analysis and there's a bit of AI, but the more advanced things you want it to do, the more money you're going to have to pay. Then there's Brand24 and other monitoring tools. Again, this is paid, but you use it to analyze sentiment, digital conversations, and benchmark against competitors. And that's also important. Now, one thing that I would say is, because these things are costly, and if you don't already have a big budget, it's going to be like, where do I even start from? But start with your social media analytics and then use Google Analytics, and make sure that Google Analytics, you link it to all your channels, link it to your website, website, because what it will do is it will pull all of that data. At the very least, you have that information that helps you to know how well are we doing in terms of channels, how well is this content doing, what are people liking, what are people seeing, are we growing month on month, are we growing quarter on quarter, what's the difference between this quarter, last quarter, first quarter. Do that Google analysis. Maybe that's the only thing that you do for me after you finish this, and create some sort of Excel sheet where you can begin to, pull out all of this useful data that is important to you. Someone might say to me, I don't know, what is the data? So you want to look at the posts that get the most engagement. So starting with likes, then engagement in terms of comments, in terms of shares, in terms of click-throughs. Click-through is a behavior. It means that they saw the thing on social media and got their interest enough to be able to click. You also want to look at traffic on your back end. How long did people stay on your website? Which pages did they stay on the longest? All of those things, you just create a dashboard that has those different topics and all. And if you're interested in learning more about this, in our strategic communications course that comes up on the 1st and the 8th of August 2026, we have a module on this. I intentionally redesigned the modules for the course because I was like, this is a real need. This is something that if communicators are able to leverage just even the basic social media analytics and Google analytics, it will make a big difference. And so we're bringing in an expert. This babe is an expert. In fact, I can't begin to tell you the things we've done this year with just data, Google analytics, getting insight. It's been so great. So if you sign up for that course, you will learn about the strategic communications framework, how to build your communication strategy, and you also learn more about using these tools, simple tools that you can use to harvest data and draw insights from them, and how to take action immediately. So we're not going to teach you things that will just give you a headache, but I just thought to chip that in. And then you have AI-powered insight tools which can be used for data analysis to spot trends, themes, and draw out insight. But the thing about using AI tools when you want to analyze your data, spot trends, is that you have to be very, very careful of imputing sensitive company details and data into free AI tools. So if it's your enterprise AI tool, if you have that in your organization, maybe you may want to use that. But what exactly is your AI policy? I hope your organization has an AI policy, but just make sure that you're thinking about data protection if you explore that route. I hope that this has been eye-opening. I just really wanted to bring to light the importance of using data, using research, gathering insights before we even run ahead to develop our communication strategies, because it makes a very, very big difference. The strongest communication strategies are built on evidence, and you are able to improve your chances of achieving the desired results and outcomes by anchoring your strategy on solid data and insights. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I really like to make things simple for people. I really like people to watch or listen to the things that I share and have that opportunity to take the first practical step. And the first practical step that I want you to take is to sit with the data in the back end of your social media and your website. Analyze it on a monthly basis, because what they will do is you can check it in a month, you can get a quarter worth of data, and 1 year, and just begin to say, what does this reveal to me? What does this show me about engagement, about what people are interested in, about what people engage with the most, about the things that did well, what are the things that possibly didn't do well? You just find that content that you really, really love, maybe it's not really doing well, but you're just posting it. But if you just sit down with it, it would reveal and tell you a lot of things. And like I said before, if you want to learn more, do sign up for our strategic communications course, which is coming up on the 1st of August. It's 2 days, Saturday 1st of August and Saturday 8th of August, where we'll do a deep dive and we'll show you some of these things really practically so that you can actually take it on board and implement. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it on the comment section here on YouTube. And if you want to engage with me further, in the description for this video, I'm also going to put the link where you can book a free 20-minute session with me, or a paid session, or you can even invite me to come and train your communications team or do a training for your team members, either your communications team or the wider team in terms of all your employees. I'm open to do that. I'm open to travel, but my desire and my goal is to see that communications professionals across Africa, across the world, are equipped to deliver high-level results that helps them to gain the respect, recognition, and remuneration that they deserve. But I always say that it starts with us. It starts with us building our capacity and then then delivering the results that this function is meant to deliver, and then we enjoying good success collectively as a result. So thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.